Welcome to Cantina Vizsla. For the safety of the bartenders and any other patrons, remember to keep all arms, legs, tentacles, or any other extremities you may have to yourself at all times. So come right in, grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Coming to you from the Panic Room in the crap part of the cantina, I'm Sparrow, and with me, as always, is a man who some say is confused by the word snow. All I know, it is not Stan, but Cotman.
I do not know what you speak of when you say this word snow. I'm sitting here in 70-degree weather.
I know. I mentioned shoveling snow, and he's like, well, you know, it's 60, and I was debating whether I had to put pants or keep shorts on.
And I kept the shorts on.
Yeah. Oh, man, it has been a crazy couple weeks and everything, not only within the game, but also outside the game, which is really odd to say that there's just as much going on in the game now as outside the game, because that hasn't happened in about a year.
So you're saying the flood is here?
Yes, the flood of content that has been teased and that we have been talking about has finally got caught up to the player base. And it was definitely very interesting listening to some of the CG interviews on Galactic War Report and them talking about how long they have been planning and working on Beskar Mando and events that have finally come out.
Yeah, which actually, like, really kind of, I think, to me, explained how long, like, prior all these things, like, I guess I hadn't thought about the time that it takes to get into the game, and from the production to, you know, beta testing and then into our hands. I mean, I just didn't realize it was that long.
Well, they said this one was basically the longest, that they started working on Beskar Mando even before they did any of the Galactic Legends. I think this one just kind of fell into a time period that they were excited about Mando, started working on them, and then timing-wise, they figured he would go into Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and their system upgrades kind of pushed everything back. It made everything a lot longer, that they had a lot of stuff in the pipeline that they had to go through and then fix to make it work and make sure it didn't break.
Mm-hmm.
But what have you been up to this week, though? Or at least last couple of weeks?
Well, school is done. And that I have 2 weeks off, so that's awesome. Although I received this. So my final exam was due Friday at 10 a.m., and somebody turned it in last night at 5:30. I'm not exactly sure what they were thinking.
Did they forget that there's such a thing called a timestamp on emails?
Yeah, well, I mean, I posted my grades at 11 o'clock yesterday, or Friday morning, and I was out of there. I was just like, I am getting out. I have last period as my prep period, so I get to leave early. I wasn't waiting around for any stragglers, and I certainly wasn't waiting around until Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, they tried to pull a fast one or sell their grades and were like, yeah, no, guess I have to actually do this now.
Yeah, I have no clue. They'll be retaking it. But then the other thing that happened is I received a $75 charge from Apple today. Well, normally that would be me spending money on SWGOH. I haven't spent that much money on SWGOH recently.
Not that you remember.
It could have been a drunk one, but no, I called them up, and it seems that somebody named Mackenzie Siscano made a charge to Minecraft.
Oh.
So I don't know how that happened, but I had to put a stop to that. So that was fun. And I pretty much accused my kids of running up a charge because, you see those stories about how, like, a kid ran up these in games, and I was like, oh God, if this happened. But nope, somebody else did it. So we've had to go around and try to figure out and change passwords and all that.
Fun times, jeez.
Yeah. So what about you? What you been up to?
Oh, had a lovely snowstorm this week that, had a day off work because, well, had a day off work, but I ended up shoveling all day. So I got 2 feet of snow within basically 12 hours.
So at one point it was snowing like 3.5 inches per hour. You went out and shoveled, and by the time you were done shoveling, it looked like you needed to shovel again.
Oh, God. How is Pennsylvania when it comes to response? Because I lived in Virginia for 15 years, and it was like the end of the world whenever we got snow.
The response actually isn't too bad. It's just when you get that much that quickly, there's no way for basically PennDOT is they do all the plow and road maintenance and everything. There's no way for them to really keep up. And then Williamsport was bad mainly because they actually went through and even said, bear with us as far as snow removal goes. We had an outbreak of COVID, and a lot of people are either out because of COVID or quarantined because of COVID that would normally be running our plow trucks. So bear with us. So it wasn't too bad. By Thursday morning, it basically started Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning, the side roads and everything were still covered. By Friday, well, actually Thursday night, Friday, they had everything pretty much clear. So everything right now, road-wise, is clear. It's just very narrow because of how much snow we got. So it's not terrible. It's moving along. Just big snowstorm. A lot of work. So that just led to me finishing up shopping for Christmas. I actually have all that done, which that is usually not my MO. Usually it's Christmas Eve shopping at the liquor store for gifts. that is my gift, but I'm actually all done with Christmas already. Made cookies because I was snowed in. And yeah, that's about it.
What type of cookies?
Snickerdoodles.
Oh, not a bad choice.
Yeah. Got to go with those classic Christmas cookies and everything. But yeah, let's everybody could probably tell, we do not have Stan. He is being forced into manual labor.
We think.
That is what we have been told. So
all we have seen is the murder room, so
yeah, the murder room is just supposedly was painting. It looked like it was plastic tarps taped up all over the ceiling and everything with a wide open room with a plastic tarp on the bottom. So
catch that spray of blood.
Yeah, I don't know what he's up to, but he says he's doing painting. But we'll see. We'll leave that be. Maybe he'll reappear next week or the week some way. Well, probably not next week considering it's Christmas, but the next podcast, and we'll ask him ourselves. So let's get into the game. How's your SWGOH experience been the last couple weeks?
Right now I'm just kind of in a wait and see mode. I'm kind of hoarding for Best Carmando in preparation, but I did get Palp's Ultimate finished, so I'm done for tickets until the next round of Galactic Legends comes.
Nice.
I took Barris and Droidica to R5 just to get another teams and characters ready for the Sith Rancor, or the Heroic Rancor. I made the decision to kind of finish off Darth Revan and the Sith Empire team, so I took him to R7 and threw his last Zeta on the Conqueror. And then in preparation for Beskar Mando, I had a Zeta kind of just sitting there, so I threw it on Vanchu, who's at R4, so yeah, that works out.
Look at this guy. Having Zetas. Where'd this come from?
I know, and I looked at Palps, and I just was so mad at him. I was like, "You're not getting them," and so I threw it on to Revan and Vanchu. I was like, serves you right.
You're useless to me. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Did you see that? Did you see the Reddit post where somebody made it? It was like, Rose, we finally have a use for you, and it was
yes.
I laughed so hard, not at Rose getting eaten, but more at when Finn tells Kylo to go get the Galactic Legends. And he's like, "What about Palpatine?" He's like, "No, just the useful ones." I was like, "Yep, that's the experience I've had." Last thing is I got a Quill to 28 out of 85 and IG-11 up to 72 of 85.
Oh, nice. So
So
you end up doing
really,
packs, or is that just there with these added drops?
I did one pack for each of them, one $10 pack, and then Quill I didn't touch after that. But IG-11, I got three of those 12.99 packs, and I got 15 three times, which is better than 10, but not great. But that's yeah, and I've been doing up to the 200 refreshes.
Up to and including
So
200?
yep.
Okay.
So like I stop when I see that 400.
Okay, so doing basically 6 refreshes.
Exactly. So
Okay.
I'm pumping through. That's the reason I've gotten pretty high.
Yeah, that's not moving along very well there, and definitely
I
worth it if
did,
you had the crystal horde. It looks like.
yeah, and I did, and I'm down to 3,000. But I did the math, and if I get 9 quill shards and 6 IG-11 shards by the end of the event, I'll finish them off.
Okay, yeah, and we'll get into the event on difficulty and everything like that. So, from seeing that,
All right,
you shouldn't have a problem with the event as soon as you go through and actually get them to 7-star, which is nice.
Yeah. What about you? What'd you do?
Ended up getting pretty much the day we recorded. That night, I got Set Trooper up to Gear 13 and started ticket farming. So it took, Stan complains about tickets so bad.
Yes.
And let me tell you, the added drop rates with how they adjusted it, basically like the additive drops and everything for galactic chases and everything, where it actually goes through and scales depending on the energy you spend, makes a huge difference. Because before it went through and it seemed like it took forever. Basically, I had enough tickets to unlock them and did that in a week and a half. And that's only using the 50 refreshes. So I was only doing 3 refreshes a day. So it really was not bad at all. It kind of put me a little bit back on farming because I was making sure I was hitting just dark side nodes. But I mean, there's good gear there. I mean, going through and doing Kairos and stun guns and stun cuffs, there was very good gear that I could farm with that. So did that, got Supreme Leader Kylo Ren unlocked, all 6 Zetas immediately.
Nice.
Because I have a horde of it, and I still have another 6 saved up.
Ooh, look at you, moneybags.
Yeah, and that leaves me with stuff going on in the game. I kind of was in a weird spot, which we'll go over here on why that is very shortly. But now I'm basically down to needing 3 characters for Jedi Knight Luke. I have one piece on Hermit Yoda, Cholo, and Lando.
Did you have, like, last episode you said that when Stan unlocked Jedi Master Luke, it was like just a wall of text, a congratulations from Zeke, and then started again on the next one. Is that what you did?
No. I don't hoard gear like Stan. I went through and I had a feeling Jedi Knight Luke was coming. So, like, as I was farming tickets, basically I was farming the gear for those characters was how I was approaching it, because I knew with the event rolling through, it's more beneficial for me to farm and gear the characters needed for Jedi Knight Luke and have them ready immediately than having Supreme Leader Kylo Ren immediately Gear 13.
Yeah.
So that's the way I looked at it. It's going to hurt short term for what got dropped this week or last week, but in the long run, it's going to work out, because I mean, I'll have Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, I'll have Jedi Knight Luke, I'll be on my way to Jedi Master Luke, and it's just a better progression overall than having to go through and, hey, you have everything done for Jedi Master Luke and Jedi Knight Luke, but you can't get either of them until Jedi Knight Luke comes back. So, and then we got our community completion. Mara Jade and their guild went through and beat the challenge Rancor. Congrats, guys. I mean, it's been I've been watching guilds go through do that and try it, and it is tough. It'll definitely kick your butt multiple times. And
Our guild is 0 for 2, so I am very jealous.
Yeah, we went through and we're 1 for 2, but I went through and did one team worth of damage, and then the Rancor decided it was going to go quicker than my teams could actually attack or do anything, so I just kept going in and getting eaten, and I was like, well, I guess I'm over this raid. And
You're like, I did what I could.
Yeah, I did what I could, and there's nothing left for me to do. Let's get into the calendar before we get into the news. Do you want to go over the calendar, or you want me to jump into it?
Let's see here. I'll do it for you.
Okay.
So we're on the 20th here. So on the 20th, we're right in the middle of the Tatooine resistance. And who are they fighting? Resistance is against separatists, yeah. And then the contraband cargoes today. We're in the middle of TW 151. Tomorrow is going to be Defensive Dathomir, a Smuggler's Run, and an Admiral's Maneuver. That's the 21st. We get another Galactic Challenge. This is going to be First Order versus the Bounty Hunters in Jakku on the 22nd. We have the Emperor's Demise Mythic event with the thing that everybody needs. The Training Droid Smuggling is coming. We have an Endurance that day as well. Wow, they are really throwing a lot at us. The next day we'll have two Mythic events going on at the same time: the Emperor's Demise and the Daring Droid, along with the Executrix. And then 24th, this is what everybody has been looking forward to. We get Luke Skywalker coming back. So are you going to get him on the 24th?
No. Yeah, I have one gear piece to get Hermit Yoda ready, so I'll be down to Lando and Captain Han.
Okay.
And I think I only have one gear 12 piece on Captain Han, and that's it. So it's going to take me a little bit to farm up. I'm going to be... The Luke Skywalker event runs through the 4th, so I'm hoping I'll be close on the 4th. If not, I'm going to see what packs get dropped for Christmas, so I'll probably buy some crystals and buy that gear to make sure I go through and actually get them by at least the 4th.
We still have Daring Droid continue on. Then we have another Mythic event with the Artist of War coming back. Also, Ghosts of Dathomir and General's Command. Man, they are throwing a lot at us. Christmas. We got another Galactic Challenge starting with the Scoundrels versus Droids on Camino. Home 1. Artist War continues. And Forest Moon Assault Battle.
And
then
the Galactic Challenges being on Camino, this is the beginning of having 2 Galactic Challenges per week for the foreseeable future. They said this is basically going to be the new cadence, that we're going to have 2 per week. One's going to run basically, Friday through Sunday, and the next one's going to start Tuesday through Friday.
Is that? Yep. They go back to, yep. It looks like that it's going to be Mondays are going to be the day off.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be kind of nice. Okay. Finishing out the week here, we get Grandmaster's Training. We get Luke Skywalker Continues, Camino, Indoor Escalation, Ground War, and it has Indoor Escalation on here twice. So it's going to be a busy week through Christmas and the day after.
Well, kind of sort of a busy week. It is good for people that don't have these characters and just trying to get shards. It's a lot of simming for me through a lot of these. But yeah, overall good. I mean, it'll give a lot of shards to go into for shard shop currency. It'll go through, help me out as far as gear, which is always always helpful, and kind of going from there. So I'm glad they're throwing everything out there for Christmas. A lot of people have a lot of stuff to do. Yeah.
Sitting at home with your family and you don't want to argue about politics, you can play Assault Battle.
That's right. Now, let's get into the news, because, man.
We got a lot.
Yeah, we had 2 big things come out. So, not 2 weeks ago, basically, right after we went through and recorded, which tends to happen. We kind of force CG's hand when we go through and talk. They got to come out with something, kind of show us up, jerks.
Yeah.
They decided, perfect time to drop Challenge Rancor. It's just going to come out. Hey, we're going to announce it and give you the details. And, oh, yeah, by the way, it's dropping here in an hour.
Yeah, that was insane. And here is 180,000 tickets. Have fun.
Yeah. The only thing I went through and, my guild did it, was immediately launch it without a sign-up period or anything. And I'm like, guys, if we're like one of the top 10 guilds, top 20 guilds, I could see doing that and trying to figure out. We're below that. It's going to take us. We don't have the strongest theory crafters, but we go through and like accumulate the data based on watching other guilds and everything players try. I was like, I don't understand why they didn't launch it right away with a sign-up period to let everybody sign up, then get in there, see what teams it is, and then try it basically the day after everybody else. But yeah, they launched it right away. Everybody went in, and let me tell you, the Gamguard captain,
he's been eating his Wheaties.
Yeah, he doesn't like people anymore.
No,
his guards, yeah, not a big deal. They just kind of fall over, not like nothing, and then he just goes through and starts attacking and one-shot KOing people.
Yeah, it's like he got that HGH shipment and did not share it.
Yeah, that is pretty much what it is. So let's kind of go over. I figure we'll go over what we're seeing right now with the Challenge Rancor. What kind of impressions? We'll go over team strategies that we're seeing and what they did to kind of actually make it difficult.
Yeah.
So, overall impressions upon playing so far.
It's insanely difficult, but I like it. I like it because it doesn't feel like just a reskin, which it kind of is, but it doesn't feel like it because the guild is having to come together. We're trying to have to coordinate. We're, some characters that hadn't been given a lot of love, looking at you, Jawas, are starting to get some love. I like that it continues the trend that they're doing. So yeah, I was impressed, and I've continued to be impressed by what they've done recently.
Yeah, overall impressions for me so far are, it's good. It's a good challenge. It's nice to go through and actually see the guild having to come together and work together again. Not the biggest fan of the way CG went through and implemented this, because as Dan and I know other people have mentioned multiple times, if you go through and make the way to beat a raid or beat an event is basically timestamped that a ton of people have to be in there all at once, it makes the game unenjoyable. And that seems like what they did, because in order to go through and make this difficult, they went through and basically got rid of all turn meter manipulation. Your characters can't gain turn meter, you can't take away turn meter, and then they went through and added stage tiers of damage that as soon as you hit a threshold, all of a sudden the damage ramps up. So in order to get around that, the main strategy is have, like, some of the teams will do 15% damage. They'll go through and have you'll need
10, 15 people.
Not even. If they do 15 plus, you're only talking about 6-7 people to go in, stack that damage and hold on to it, and then post all at the same time.
And then at that point, it's like almost a job, because you have to show up at a certain time. You're waiting for permission, and it's just, it's just crazy. And it's like, I agree with you and Stan. It's just that part of it was kind of
that's the only
short-sighted.
Yeah, that might be something that CG didn't think of. They didn't think of, but probably should have, because guilds have done that multiple times before. I remember doing the tank raid in which you would go through and basically do the same thing. You would have a handful of people go in there when the tank raid first came out to smack down with their Kylo Ren Zetas.
Mm-hmm.
You would go through.
Everybody went in.
Yeah, you would go in and just attack and get your 15-20% damage in, or something like that. I forget what the exact number was, but you basically have like 5 or 10 Kylo Rens go in, do your damage, and then post and kicked over to the next phase. Which
I just don't like the super have to wait, and I get that they wanted to make it a guild cooperation thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like having to sit there and do the airplane mode and wait and hold on and like my guild, one of the things we've been doing, and I get why we're doing it, go in, practice, and then come back out. Go in, practice, come back out, and see what you get. And it's not a game at that point.
Well, I don't have a problem with that part, because I'll do that part. That's going through figuring out teams, figuring out mods, and the guild itself is telling people not to post, only because they're trying to give more people an opportunity to get in there and practice before the damage ramps up or the speed ramps up. So that part I get, and like eventually you almost have to give the raid like a month or two, because I remember doing that when the original Rancor came out, of people going through and doing that, in which you're going in and backing out, trying Tebow, trying the turn meter manipulation, getting Rex in there for, actually, it wasn't even Rex, it was,
Fives.
No, Fives was one of them, but for Tenacity Down, believe it or not, it was Tusken. I think it was Tusken Raider getting in there to get or Tusken Shaman, one of the two, to go through and get Tenacity Down. That way you can manipulate the turn meter. But, I mean, that's part of the raid. That part I understand. I guess
I just don't like the how am I? I'm trying to think of the proper way to put it. The time, not commitment, but time appointment almost.
Yeah. I mean, for what you're saying, that aspect of it, as far as like holding damage, not so much holding damage, but finding the right team and everything, and then backing out and going back in to experiment, that goes away eventually, because you know what teams are using, the cadence, because the cadence never changes with the raid. You set up your mod, you set up your team, it's going to be the same thing. You can do the same, especially the Rancor. You can do the same turn order and moves and get roughly the same damage almost every time, which is fine. I think the only thing with the Challenge Rancor, impression-wise, that I'm not a big fan of, in which I'm definitely hurting the guild a little bit right now, just because of, like I said, where I'm sitting at with Slicker and Jedi Knight Luke coming back, it is hard capped at Relic 5.
And see, I don't have a problem with that part, because if you have anything less, you might as well, it's like pissing in the wind.
Well, exactly. Well, at that point, why is it a problem? Why is it hard capped? Because those other characters and everything that are less than Relic 5, they aren't doing anything. They aren't doing any damage. They aren't helping the guild out. So, what is it doing? I think I probably would have been fine with Gear 13. That would have made more sense than Relic 5.
They've always had a hard cap. It's just that it was stars for the earlier ones.
And which I would have understood Gear 13 needing to be in there and basically needing relics to go through and actually do any serious damage. But yeah, that's the only part I'm not a big fan of, is having it Relic 5. It just seems a very odd hard cap.
That part, it doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, it's just a weird hard cap, because especially for a raid, because usually it was 7 stars, and that just based on what tier you needed, and then all of a sudden it's like everything else is like, oh, it needs to be Gear 12, Gear 13, or a power rating, and now all of a sudden it's Relic 5, which is right smack dab in the middle of the Relic tiers. So it's
But
like, where the hell did you come up with Relic 5? I mean,
they've been relic capping for a while lately, especially with the Galactic Legends and so forth. And 5 is almost like the majority of the Galactic Legends are like 3. And then you have your occasional 5 and then the super rare 7. So maybe they're just trying to get people to spend their resources.
Yeah, I honestly think they went through and looked at the data and saw the majority of the player base is stopping at Relic 4.
Yeah.
And that is mainly because the best way to get the salvage material is by using those shower drains, Mark III shower drains. You can never get enough to be able to convert them and actually make the pieces and everything. So I think they're just trying to force people into doing that, which, I mean, it's fine, but I think there was better ways to do it. With people would have done it anyways because they needed the teams for the Rancor. It's like, hey, they're at Relic 1 and they don't do any damage, but if they're at Relic 7, they're doing 15%. Guess what I'm doing?
That's why I don't have a problem with it. So it's like I have to get there anyways. Might as well.
Yeah,
I
go through, and my biggest thing with the relic caps and everything like that is it gets rid of the opportunity to theory craft. Because the only way you can theory craft now is if you're a whale and you spend the money and have the characters at that gear level. So it's like, hey, the free-to-play player, guess what? You're free-to-play. You may be the best theory crafter that is there, but you can't do the theory crafting yourself because you didn't pay the money to gear the characters to be able to go through and confirm that theory crafting.
So you're kind of like what's the Jawas, for example. Like unless like even I, who was a pretty heavy spender last year and has tailed off, my Jawas are gear 8. So it's not like I'm going to have those ready, and I don't. I mean, even my Night Sister Zombie, she's been fine for me at gear 12, and I haven't been needing her to go higher, but now I do because I have to get her in.
Yeah, I mean, that's my big thing. Is that I like the theory crafting part of it, and when you put hard caps like that, especially a bigger raid, it's like I could see that for Galactic Legends, Legendary events, Heroes Journeys events, just because that is hard characters that you need to complete the event. And there's some theory crafting to kind of beat the tiers, but it's not as big as a raid. A raid is a huge theory crafting area.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. So, light side, dark side, GOTB, they have a power gate. So, like, is it really any different? Because it's just a different way of wording it. But I mean, I guess you could tweak it with mods. But like, my clone sergeant isn't ready to go into that phase 3 bottom mission yet because he's not gear 13.
The only difference with that is basically the ones that are doing that power gate and the GOTBs. It's all very specific teams. Like it's Jedi, it's clones, so basically know how the teams work. You know how to go through and do that.
Okay,
and like the theory crafting is more, hey, what mods and everything like that are you going to put on it?
As opposed to which kind of characters can I get to work with each other?
Yeah, what team comps, like going through, like putting Jawas with Rey to be able to get massive damage. It's like you're going through mixing matching oddball teams based on abilities. So I mean, overall it's good. I nitpick because every time you go through and have something big like this comes out and they go through and throw like a hard cap or something on it, it just feels like it hurts free to play theory crafters.
Well,
or if you go through and do theory craft and take that chance of gearing them up, you go through and hurt yourself by, well, I'm going to try this, and if it doesn't work, you're hurting yourself greatly. Where if it's lower end, you can actually go through and actually stand a chance of seeing if the abilities work and the theory works, and then relic them up to see how much damage you can get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying, and I think you do have a point. I'm just kind of like on the side that it's like if you don't have Mar5, they're not going to do Jack Diddley anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you would have that chance to theorycraft because he would just smash, smash, eat, and you would be done.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of my points. Like going through, it's like they aren't going to do any damage, so why even have the cap? It doesn't hurt anything because they aren't going to. If anything, they're going to be messing up the turn meter and messing up your next run if you go in there and they all die immediately.
Yeah, I think we're both seeing it the same way. We just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like overall, I would give the rollout was unexpected, and I would give it like a B plus the way they did it.
I mean, it was welcome. I mean, I like having going through in those drops instead of going through doing, 3-4 months worth of teasing of Galactic Legends to say, hey, we mentioned this, well, you data mined this a while ago. We've said we were considering it and working on it. And then, hey, here it is. Done.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Let's, so we kind of went over the strategy with what guilds are doing. Basically, they're trying to go through and front load the damage, get a whole bunch of players all at once, holding damage within the game, and then posting all at once just to take either the Rancor or the Gam Guards completely down and get out of that phase without doing too much or, if any, overkill. And I'm sure here at some point they're going to be manipulating that even closer, in which they're going to go through and leave, say, 1% or a little under 1% of that transition period, because it is beneficial to go in, do your damage, and then go into the next phase to be able to stack more damage because you have preloaded turn meter and abilities ready to go off cooldown. So I have a feeling it's going to get tweaked a little bit
down the line.
Yeah, it will get to that point, and just wait for it. They're going to be going through and manipulating the damage to try to go through and leave, phase 1 teams are doing right around 15%, so I can see them leaving 5% going in and then transitioning into the next phase. After that, phase 2, 3, and 4, that one might be a little bit more difficult to do, but definitely phase 1 is going to hit that point. Let's get into what teams. You mentioned the one team, which I'm lovely.
The Ray and the Jawas.
Yeah, Ray and the Jawas. Why don't you you want to go over what team that is?
Who is the fifth in that team? Because I don't have my Jawas, so I haven't.
There's a couple versions. Basically, it goes through and has Ray, Watt,
Jawa Scavenger.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Watt.
Yeah.
And then Jawa Engineer and Jawa Scavenger, Jawa Engineer, and is it
Hoda's in one version of it.
Yeah, I saw one that's 3 Jawas.
Yeah, there's a different couple different variations of it, but yeah, it's using the Jawas with Ray, and they are getting 15 plus. I think I saw one that was 20%.
Okay, here I got it here. So it is Ray. Yep, you were right. It's Ray. Oh, is that Chief Nebbit? Yeah, it's Ray, Chief Nebbit,
Chief Nebbit for the
Scavenger, Engineer, and Watt.
Okay. And I think the Engineer and Hoda can be interchanged.
Exactly. So those are the two that are kind of... So the core is Ray, Nebbit, Scavenger, Watt.
And if you have the teams and everything, you probably put Engineer in there over Hoda, just because...
Hoda can be used elsewhere.
Yes, Hoda does fit into a few other teams. Now, if you don't want to go through and get your Jawas up to get that damage, that is the highest team. It's somewhere between 15 and 20% well-modded Rays that are getting that with the Jawas.
The other team with Ray is 5s, Rex, 3PO, and Hoda, and that's the one I use.
Okay.
Which it's pretty much just keep Rex alive as long as possible to get off those jump shots that he does. And that one, I was getting around 8 to 9%. This says 15%.
That these top 10 or top percentages, that is with basically perfect modding, god mods.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about everything sliced up 25 plus speed, or if they're using offense set, that's hitting offense 5 times. That's where these big numbers are coming from. I bet on average you take 5% off of any of these numbers is more realistic where your top end going. So if they say 15 plus here for that 5's Rex team, you're probably looking at 10 to 11% is probably more realistic for decent mods.
Yeah, and that's where I got 8 to 9%, and sometimes depending on just a turn here or there, I would get 4%. So it was really, but still 4%. It wasn't awful. And the other big team that I keep seeing, I don't know about you, is just the regular Padme team.
Also, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren in this phase also does that with Daka, Zombie, Hux, and Hoda. Yep, that one does right around 10 to 12.
Our guild was kind of saving him for the beginning of phase 2.
Yeah, it just depends on what teams you have built up and what phase you're available for your guild. So if you have Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and you have that team already built up, because a lot of people do have Night Sisters Relic, and you can only get in for phase 1, go ahead and do it. Get that 12%, and you're going to do a lot better than anything else further down the line. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Padme is, well, it drops off sharply. It's 3% essentially when you go through with this, but probably 3 to 5.
Yeah, I got 5.7, but my whole team is R7 because I ran her in Arena for a long time.
Okay, yeah, that team's pretty much just the classic Padme team, really. You have Jedi Knight, Anakin, General Kenobi, Ahsoka, and
any mixture of R2, 3PO, or Hoda.
Okay. And I mean, as far as going through with that, probably Grandmaster Yoda's probably going to be the best bet, just damage-wise, or I would imagine R2, just to boost the stats of the rest of the team to go through and put out damage.
Yeah.
Now, getting into phase 2 and 3, it's pretty much those two phases are really no difference. It's pretty much two of the same phases. There's no real difference. You're going through same strategy and everything. Just like we mentioned before with the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, Daka, Zombie, Hux, and then Watt, and then a combination of Hux or Grand Admiral Thrawn. You can get somewhere right around 15%. That is the big team for this phase.
And then this Vader team is interesting. But the thing is like you can't double up because Watt's needed for both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why like when you go through and look at some of these teams, it's like Rey and the Jawas, you probably want to put, if you're going to use that team, you want to put Engineer in there, not Hoda, because you can use Hoda in another Supreme Leader Kylo Ren team or Galactic Republic team or just another team in general. When you get down Watt-wise, say you don't have Supreme Leader Kylo Ren yet, but you have Vader and Palpatine, then it makes sense to go through and run Watt there.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to go through and kind of pick and choose and make the best team for the best percentage based on where your guild needs help. If your guild doesn't need help in phase 1, man, you're going to want to save Watt and Supreme Leader Kylo Ren for phase 2 and 3 because you're definitely getting 15% in one of those phases is going to be a huge help to your guild. Because Rey seems to be the queen of phase 1, and she does good in phase 3 and 4, but nowhere near Supreme Leader Kylo Ren or how much damage she can go through and do in phase 1.
So Rey can take on the pigs, Kylo can take on the Rancor.
Yep. The Vader team I've seen do really good. Believe it or not, an Aura Singh team with bounty hunters.
Well, she has that thing where she has the topple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was so irritated because I got in at some point in phase 2 where the door, when I would knock it down, it would just go right back up. It was almost like a garage door that the sensor was tripped. And so it was like a wasted shot.
You have to have your characters very fast in order to do that, because it went through, and that was one of the things they changed, basically, on the speed of when the Rancor gets knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
So your characters have to be very fast in order to go through and do multiple damages or have some sort of just getting the attacks in very quick. Other character, once again, it's mean. Stretch goals. Jedi Master Luke team. I have seen big numbers with the Jedi Knight Luke lead, with Jedi Master Luke, Yoda, and then Barriss and Kiadi-Mundi.
Oh, God, Kiadi-Mundi.
And Kiadi-Mundi is the big damage dealer in that team, which is crazy to go through and think about, but yeah. And
remember last podcast, you were saying that he was the most useless character in the past 2 years or whatever? Well, it's like almost like they heard.
It's a slow burn. 2 years later, the character is good. Hey guys, we finally figured out what use for him. No one has him at 7 stars, but hey, stretch goals. 3 years like down the line.
It's like whenever somebody tells you to watch a TV show, they're like, just get through the first 4 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there are some interesting teams in here. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Jedi Master Luke is very good in Phase 2 and 3. Shakti and clones. Gas and clones. They're doing decent numbers.
I just feel so bad for Rose.
Oh, yeah. Rose is basically go through because, it wouldn't be CG without a few bugs. And even though the description says the Rancors, consume?
Well, it's like, I just feel like this is like the Last Jedi haters are like, let's get Rose. Let's get her. I'm like, oh, poor girl.
But I mean, the Rancor is supposed to be on cooldown, and he goes through and he immediately goes through and eats someone. So you basically, as soon as you get in Phase 2, you go through, throw Rose in there, she gets eaten, and then you put in a real team. Just to get rid of that cooldown.
Poor girl. Well, I mean, she hits pretty hard with her dildo with a tickler attached.
Well, you just go through and give the Rancor a gift of a rose.
It's like that old Seal song.
That's right. Exactly what that is. So, yeah, so that's really Phase 2 and 3. I mean, all the teams that are listed currently are some version of a Jedi Master Luke team. Obviously, the Rey team is back in there from Phase 1 with Fives and Rex. Yeah, the only oddball one is that Aura Singh team with Grief. Kind of curious that now that people are getting Beskar Mando, we should be seeing them kind of theory crafting with him going into probably...
If I'm not mistaken, they said specifically in their Galactic War Report conversation that he is not going to be like the savior of the Rancor.
Oh, okay.
That they said that like he is specifically targeted as like a beginning level legendary on the level of Jedi Knight Revan.
Okay. Well,
is where they power-wise they were like specifically targeting him to go.
Which is fine. I mean, Theory Crafter, they go through and throw in some... Well, I guess he's not a bounty hunter, so it doesn't fit into the Aura Singh team. It's going to make it hard. So it's probably not Beskar Mando is the issue within a Scoundrel team to make it work in the Rancor. It's probably the supporting Scoundrels don't actually support that.
Yeah.
And then, that last phase is really just a Zerg phase. There's really nothing... You go through them. Big damage, CLS, Han, Chewie.
Haven't even seen it.
Yeah, Darth Revan, Grievous, basically whatever you have left. There's really nothing. Yeah, First Order team with Hux, since Supreme Leader Kylo Ren's team actually doesn't use any real First Order characters, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, that phase is brutal. You go through and you can get in. Yeah, you got to survive the first attack and start going through. And if you mess up, you go through and basically do 1.5%, somewhere anywhere above 1%. It's actually good in that phase, and then you have to hope. The speeds get bad.
That graphic Rebel Force did, and it's like 1.5, 1.5, 1, and it's like, oof.
Yeah, the Rancor is so fast. So if you go in, like, your first attack is going to be your highest damage dealing. So if you don't go through and don't have a good run, back out, put the team back in, and go through and try to get a higher percentage run, because as soon as you feed the Rancor turn meter and the cooldowns get messed up, I went in there with a raid team, did my somewhere right around 1.5% damage, and then the rest of my roster that I had Relic 5, literally put him in there, and I think I only had 2 people get 1 attack. He would go through and wipe out at least 3 characters on a good run. A lot of times he would just wipe out the whole team. So it wasn't anything you can do. As soon as that Rancor actually gets any sort of turn meter, he is so quick, he will demolish your team immediately. Yeah, but that is just a big Zerg, just like pretty much any Phase 4 other than...
Tank?
No, Sith Raid. Sith Raid was...
Tank, I always... At the beginning, you had to have, like, specific teams, I remember, for Phase 4, because you had to daze the guards and...
Well, that was a little bit more of a strategy one, but even, like, the Sith Raid, you had to go through... It was only Zerg when you were just down to Traya. As soon as you get rid of Malik and Nihilus, then it became Zerg, but that was 2/3 of the raid actually wasn't Zerg. But yeah, so I mean that's the raid. So that was the first thing that dropped. We did go.
And then,
well, they added something else in here. Tank.
Mm-hmm.
Stan is very happy about this. The tank is now simmable, which very good. Only thing I'm upset about is the challenges I did not complete. I do not get credit for top 5 or top 10 in the tank when it's simmed. So those challenges will sit there indefinitely, because I kind of, by the time I got that unlocked and actually could hit that, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren came out, and then in order to get top 10, you had to have Slicker or do a full solo of it, and yeah, I don't got time for that.
But the flip side is, how long did you have to do those?
Well, yeah.
4 years?
Well, no, but not 4 years. A couple years with challenges being out. But in order to get to that part of the feat, that part of the feat is like the final tier of, I think, the Jedi one or something like that. It is what it is. It's just...
Oh, so you're saying
it's one of those completionist things.
Jedi Master feat or whatever.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, completionist-wise. It's sitting there, and it's like top 10. It's like, oh, when I get Slicker, I'll go through and get it. And yeah, it didn't happen. Especially now, since it's also, even when I did full clear it, it would be a flip of a coin because it's randomized, because everybody has the same score. So it's like, hey, I hit top 10 damage, but because of an RNG factor, I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what it is. We went through, got Bronzium character drop rates double. So basically go through, and the characters are more likely going to drop from the Bronziums and not as much gear, which is, I think, good all around. Good for new players coming in, getting shards quicker. Good for older players because you get more shards to go into the shard shop currency to be able to get the gear you need. And then, yeah, so we had that, I think it's going to be a nice easy time, just go through messing with the challenge Rancor, and then this week they go through and go, yeah, Beskar Mando's coming out. Yeah, so this one is not, I don't really see any downside to this. They
No.
cap to be able to get into it and actually unlock Beskar Mando is just 7 stars.
Mm-hmm.
No complaints there. Obviously, you have Quill and IG-11, in which just became farmable, have the additive drops within Cantina, which are great. No complaints. And also, it is not a rotating event. It is permanently in the Journey Guide.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, so really, no complaints at all. As far as this, and we were pretty much spot on. We did think it was Beskar Mando. I was saying legendary event because I thought it was going to be an easier event, easier entrance fee. They classified it as a hero's journey.
But, you know, it really is a legendary because he is the only hero or the journey character without 3 Zetas.
Well, they went through and I think they classified it as a hero's journey event only because they were requiring specific characters, where any legendary event is just requiring a faction. So I think it was just the characters they needed, and also because all the characters that were part of the Mandalorian are all different factions. So they had to bring them in one way or another. So I think that was just a
workaround.
Yeah, it was just basically just a wording thing as far as that goes. So yeah, really, really cool. Great for new players. Very curious to see some of the, I'm sure a couple of the YouTubers and a couple of players are going to start brand new accounts and basically making that their first Hero's Journey event and going after these characters to start off to see actually how it works out of the beginning of the game and how they transition mid-game to end-game, using that as their first major team, gear team.
Now, I'm wondering how much easier this will be for a new player than Thrawn. Because Thrawn and Palps with Phoenix were the originals. Because it still seems a lot easier to grind out the shards for Phoenix than it will be for these guys.
Yeah, but going through looking at the event, I think the gear necessary is going to be a lot lower for Beskar Mando than it is for Thrawn.
So that's actually, yeah, that's fair.
That Thrawn event.
I remember it.
I remember
horrible.
that Thrawn event very well, and the amount of Zetas I had to put on the Phoenix team to be able to get through it. I don't think any Zetas will be needed to actually get through this event. I think it's basically a Gear 8, Gear 9 type of event to be able to get him unlocked. Which makes it very accessible. It doesn't seem like it's going to need crazy mods. That Thrawn event, if you want to get through it at, Gear 9, Gear 10, you better have very good mods. And
Zetas.
And Zetas to be able to get through that event. Otherwise, you're looking at pretty much needing the whole Phoenix squad at Gear 10 with specific ones at Gear 11 to be able to get through that event.
You know, it's so funny because, like, you know how, like, the brain kind of pushes away bad, horrific memories. And that's the reason, like, women will continue to get pregnant even though, like, childbirth is horrible. I forgot how bad that Thrawn was, and you said that. And I just remember the first time that event came out, and I played it, like, at least 150 times. And it was just banging my head, and I had to put a Zeta on as I came in to get through it.
Yeah,
that just all came rushing back to me.
Yeah, I was sitting on a 3 or 4 hour flight delay, sitting in an airport with my feet propped up in a lounge, just going through, adding Zetas, adding one piece of gear, moving mods, and that was the first time I came back. I was able to get it was the last day. I got him up to 6 stars. Didn't get a 7-star Thrawn right away, but was able to get a 6-star on the first go, and that was just. I didn't have anything better to do, so I just went through and kept bashing my head against the wall.
But once I threw the Zetas on, it was so much easier.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
bad.
I even had
forgot.
I even had the Zetas. I was just going through. It's that Phoenix gear wall at 8-9, in which they all need stun guns.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you're going through putting one piece out on time, and they all need stun guns and stun cuffs. It was just a gear wall in which I couldn't get the gear quick enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, since it's so pretty much accessible with just needing shards, there are a lot of people that go through and got Beskar Mando unlocked. What are you seeing? Any good teams? Are you seeing them counter anybody high end?
I run Jedi Master Luke in Arena, and one of my shard mates had unlocked Beskar Mando and ran a Ray lead with Beskar Mando, IG-11, Quill, and Infest Nest. And I beat it, but it was a tough team. It was not easy to fight.
Yeah, that's... man, I am seeing basically a scoundrel team like that. I'm seeing Vandor Chewie, IG-11, Quill, Nest, or another scoundrel within a team, and they do look very difficult to get through. Not only that, was seeing things where they were going through and countering Jedi Knight Revan, Darth Revan, Gas. I mean, it is on par with all those teams directly below all the Galactic Legends, which is very, very good to see. That's why I'm saying, like, early game players, I mean, this might be the team to go after, because if you can get him and slap him in Arena with that scoundrel team,
you're gonna do really well.
Yeah, even if they get Darth Revan or Jedi Knight Revan, you still have a counter and are able to compete. And anybody that doesn't have it, they're going to struggle, especially if you go through and, well, anybody with a Relic Nest, if you don't have a top tier team, she's just going to go through and beat you into submission. You're going to go through and be like, hey, I got through the rest of the team. I'm down to one character, and she will 1v5 you and look at you like, wait, are you actually trying?
Was it you or was it Stan that was like kind of against relicking Nest?
I might have been. I don't know. I definitely wasn't me, because I went through and listed as Emphas Nest if I actually would put Nest as one of the characters I would relic up, because she fits into so many teams, and just having her alone reliced out, even if you had all your other scoundrels at Gear 12, just having her at a high-end relic level would make that team, especially on defense, so much more viable and so much more difficult, and make people go through and have to overkill that team and use a stronger squad than they would have planned. Same way with, like, Bosk. Having a relic Bosk is huge and
transformative.
Yeah, because it's that much more difficult to get through. And I think Nest is one of those other characters. Same way with Malik is one, Darsion is one, that they can go through, and just one character on that team makes a huge difference when they're reliced. Which
Scion, I still don't have it at relics yet.
Yeah, which is kind of like where I'm sitting at with the Rancor raid right now, is why I'm struggling, because I went through and did a lot of those single characters, got reliced up, and they're either sitting at relic 4, or I don't have a team to go around it, because I was using that one character to transform a team and Grand Arena, and now I don't have a team to actually go around them when it goes into the raid. So it's like, hey, you have Malik and Darth Revan.
Yeah, like my best friend, like I said, he's been in it for a while, but he's been kind of scattershot. And one thing I keep telling him is focus on teams now. It's not just that one player anymore that can help you out. And so I think that's just the way the game's going. You have to have the whole team.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been like that to some extent. It's a transition period where you go through, and it's taking one character to make a a difficult team into having fully out or fully geared characters then. But let's then we had State of the Galaxy also. Man, they went through and packed in info before the end of the year, and they got out of there for the holidays.
They did, and we knocked out like 75% of it.
Yeah.
But there is one last big thing that they kind of laid out for us.
Well, one last thing they laid out for us, and then the data miners have found something else with the last... I think it came in with the Challenge Rancor update that all this information came in. So you want to go over what they said in the State of the Galaxy?
Well, the last
what
thing
they
that
alluded to, I should say.
Alluded to. Now, you can tell me whether the way you think it's going to happen is, do you think it's going to be a new character, or do you think it's going to be a new something on the holotable?
Ooh. Now, going along with what we saw with the datamined, I would say something on the holotable, and it, now that you point that out, like at first when I saw it, I thought it was just kind of an alluding to season 2 Mandalorian characters, because even Beskar Mando, he does not have his insignias on his Beskar armor.
Oh, doesn't he?
No.
You're right.
He does not have the Mudhorn, and he does not have any of the symbols, so that's basically season 1 Beskar Mando. That is not Beskar Mando season 2. So I saw the armor, and I just kind of like, oh, that means they're doing more Mandalorian season 2 characters.
But she didn't even appear in season 2.
No, but I thought it was just like kind of a teaser because she was like the last thing you saw in season 1.
Okay, so you're thinking she's going to be just a straight character.
That's what I thought at first, but you mentioning that, I kind of, and seeing the data mine, which we'll just combine these. Basically, the data miners found a quest mode. They went through and basically said there's consumables, there's artifacts, and things like that. And when you brought up the armorer, it reminds me of Mando going in there and giving his
upgrades.
Yeah, giving her the ingots that he found, basically the artifacts that he found from Mandalore to get upgrades.
Yeah.
Which I think that would be a very neat tie-in to have that in there, and would be
definitely
a fitting
better than a Jawa.
The Jawa I like. The scavenger going through on the cart. I do like that, and especially with the Mandalorian season 1 with the Jawas doing that again. I think it very much fits and works well. But yeah, that basically they're seeing a conquest mode. The notes that they went through in the data mine said nodes like Galactic War, they have stamina, artifacts, some sort of consumables.
That's where I think that the armorer is going to come in. She's going to, if she's not a character, if she's a character, she's going to be a Watt C-3PO type of character.
Yes.
But then again, she does whoop some tail at the end of season 1.
I think her main purpose is going to be that support, in which giving bonuses to the characters around her, and then she is going to have like almost like an ultimate, or kind of like Whistling Birds with Beskar Mando. That it's going to be like a charge, and then she's going to have one big attack, and then everything else is support.
What was I going to say? Well, with the conquest mode, I've heard from a few different people that it's very similar to other games. Have you played any of those other games that they're referencing?
Not that I can think of, but I've seen concepts like this before.
Okay.
That I have played. From the description that they're going through and saying, kind of like Galactic War, they're saying it kind of looks like there's multiple branches to go down, which leads me to believe it's going to be something in which you're trying to use your whole roster to go as far as possible. Different branches have different consumables or artifacts that you can get by going down different branches. Obviously, there's going to be easier branches and harder branches. If you go down a harder branch, the better artifacts, the better rewards you get for that, but it makes it exponentially harder because you don't have like health upgrades or some sort of bonus to go through and make it a little bit easier. I think that would be a very cool system. Part of the data mine did mention about a sign-up period, kind of like Galactic
Challenge
or Grand Arena.
Yeah.
That there's a sign-up period, which almost kind of sounds like it's going to be a guild event, which seems kind of weird. Or either that, or you're going to go through and maybe that sign-up period's kind of like Grand Arena, in which you're signing up, and then it's kind of a global competition. In each node, you can get point, kind of like the Grand Arena point system, 60 points. If you go down a harder path, the more points you get per round, and you're trying to see who can score the most points for kind of like just the bragging rights title or tiers, kind of like a Rhodium.
Or they'll give you like one of those things like Trapped in Carbonite or
Carbonite, Bronzium, Rhodium, and you can kind of have to move your way up point scale wise to get a better reward chest. So there's a couple ways they could do it with the existing tech and make it very similar. Overall, I mean, it sounds very, very cool. Hopefully this is kind of a replacement for Galactic War, because Galactic War is really, even new players, it's not beneficial to them with the teams that are put in there and just the system to begin with. It is listed that it has a new currency and everything also, which it might have a new currency, but say they get rid of Galactic War, it might just replace that currency.
Well, maybe. I just can't see them getting rid of Galactic War.
I don't really see the benefit of it, the way they go through and do that, and then just make it simmable. And the only thing really beneficial for new players in there are the character shards.
That's the reason I don't think they're going to get rid of it. Plus, you get a chance to kind of like test your roster out early on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's multiple ways they could do it, but it wouldn't be shocking to me if they go through and get rid of Galactic War for this, and they put it in, but that new currency and store are going to still have those characters in there. I just see it added on, that they have the characters from Galactic War still in there for the newer players that are just starting, but they'll also have gear for the higher end players above that, and just makes it a way that they can modify the store without going back on their word saying they weren't going to add anything new to the stores, because they created a new store.
We didn't add anything new to our existing stores. We just created a whole new store.
Exactly. We created a whole new store, so it doesn't count.
Gotcha. So that's lawyer speak.
Yeah. Well, which was kind of interesting because I think it was listening to a live stream with Arnold that he actually went through and said Doja Fett actually did pass the bar and did go to law school and everything.
Oh, wow.
So if you go through it, he was saying about one of their posts with the Galactic Challenges had the reward, or not the reward, but the one challenge tier was being able to complete it with Beskar Mando in the team. And basically, people were complaining about it. He put a post, and Arnold read it, and he's like, and this is lawyer speak, because it is like a big paragraph, and he's like, it says absolutely nothing other than we're trying stuff out, and it may or may not stay that way.
Yeah.
It didn't say we're changing that. Oh, we hear you. It said we're trying stuff out. It happens. Get used to it, and we'll evaluate whether we keep it or not later. But your complaining has done nothing. But yeah, it'll be interesting. This does kind of lead into, man. I mean, Stan and I were talking about this earlier this year when they were going through with this upgrade system, and we both went through and felt like there was going to be a flood of content after this upgrade to the actual engine of the game hit, and we are starting to see that, because we said when that actually started, there was going to be a lag, because they can't it doesn't benefit them to throw everything at the player base all at once because it's sitting there ready to go. They had the upgrade in. They went through and released some of the characters to set up for Mando. They went through and put in the challenge tier Rancor, which they were working on. Now we're looking at this conquest mode. Now that they have all this in the pipeline, Galactic Challenges was in there too. That you're going to go through, and it's like right now it's every month, 2 months, they're coming out with something major gameplay wise, not characters, gameplay wise is hitting the game, which is great to see. And this is pretty much the flood of content that's going to be hitting us. I think conquest mode's probably
I think February.
I think January, end of January, February, it's going to hit. But I'm trying to think flood of content. I think after this conquest mode, we might have a new raid dropping pretty shortly afterwards. And that would kind of be the end of the flood of new content. But Galactic Challenges, the raid, this conquest mode all seems like it's very manipulative, in which it's going to go through and be able to evolve and change to bring in different rewards and different characters and things like that. So you're still going to see a lot of content after that, just not brand new game modes or something. Yeah,
I was going to say, then they've given themselves enough time that they could do another territory battle.
Yeah.
And they could, do another, whatever. They could tweak the stuff that they have, but they've addressed the fact that they haven't had enough content. And I mean, really, at the heart of this game, it's really just a collector game. So they could give us more characters and so forth.
Yeah, and this basically creates the framework to be able to support that and give them the time. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty... Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
I think we covered everything. That conquest mode's kind of... But I don't know what it is. It's just, no matter what comes out, I'm always looking down to what's next, and the conquest mode has me more excited, even over the Rancor, even over anything else. Not because they aren't great events. It's just the next big thing.
So new. I mean, Galactic Challenges is kind of derivative. The Rancor is derivative. I mean, it's new, but the conquest is completely new. It's not like Hoth to Geonosis. This is a new event.
Yeah. I guess Galactic Challenges just kind of reminds me of Assault Battles. It's just It's just a reskinned and put into a different format for rewards. We can go through. I mean, we'll get into this marquee watch. Basically, Quill and IG-11 went through and got dropped into hard nodes. They went through are in additive drops in Cantina until
17 days, so January 7th?
Yeah, early. Yeah, after the
and
first week.
And then they said that they are going to become immediately farmable.
Yep. I mean, yeah, basically they went into the farmable for 21 days, 3 weeks, which is going to add a great jump for everybody. Now, who are you bumping and grinding on?
Gearing up old Night Sister Zombie.
Yeah, getting ready for that Rancor.
100%. The only reason I'm even doing it because she'd served her purpose.
Yeah.
But taking her to R5.
Oh, I think she'll serve her purpose there, and Galactic or Grand Arena, and also Territory Wars. Also, having a relicked out zombie is not going to be a bad thing.
No, and that means I just gotta I might as well just go for the whole team now because my Talzin's only G12 and my Talia and Acolyte are only G12.
I'm gonna say they're a tough team relicked out. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'll probably work on that. But hard node is just I'm slowly doing Sith Bomber just to get it done, and then everything else is gear.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we were talking about, I'm going through focusing down on the Jedi Knight Luke requirements. I have Supreme Leader Kylo Ren where he's going to be sitting at for right now. Going to try to go through and get Jedi Knight Luke unlocked this go around of his event. Gets me set up for the new raid, Jedi Master Luke, and everything. So that's where my focus was on, essentially for the next 2 weeks until that Jedi Knight Luke event happens. And then it's going to be switching to getting characters up to Relic 5 to get ready for the Rancor, because I have my General Aaron Skywalker fits, but none of my clones are. All my clones are sitting at R4, so I need to go through and bump them all up. My Padme team's pretty much all at R4, so they need to get bumped up. And then I have 3 really good teams between Rey, General Skywalker, and Padme. So that is my game plan with that. Obviously, finalize Erratas when they appear, getting close to finishing them up, and doing a slow grind on Grief and the Rebel Y-Wing, which is coming to an end. Slowly but surely, but definitely getting there. Chupio and Mon Mothma are currently taking a back seat with hard node farms until I get just need to go through and farm that gear over shards right now. That's the focus and everything, with not knowing when Jedi Knight Luke will reappear, and missing out for another 3-4 months is not going to be ideal.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the game. I mean, let's go into
some Star Wars news.
Yeah, we can get into some Star Wars news. We'll try to keep it somewhat.
I don't know how.
Somewhat short.
Have you seen the? You've seen season 2's finale, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, anybody that hasn't seen season 2 finale, I would suggest going through and stopping now.
Exactly.
So we're gonna get into spoilers. There was big Disney stuff that kind of followed that. Basically, it's almost like a 5-year plan worth of Star Wars shows and movies that are going to be coming out. So we'll get into that. If you aren't sticking around for that, we'll talk to you next time. But let's get into the Star Wars news here. Mando Season 2. Man. I basically saw it coming on who was going to come and what was going to happen. But it was still very cool to see.
See, I was not prepared for Luke.
Basically, as soon as they said there was a X-Wing, I knew what was going to happen. And
I did too,
always had.
The thing is how did they keep that a secret?
Yeah, well, because they never had Mark Hamill actually on set, because they had a stand-in actor.
But they had he was dressed out as Luke.
No. Well, no, they just had kind of, sort of. I don't know how they filmed it, and it's only a small crew that would be able to do that, and they had some random guy as far as, because a lot of times they figure out who's there based on what actor's going in to portray everything. Like, they knew Rosario Dawson and who she was going through and going to be, and some of the Bo-Katan was the same way. They knew the actor and what role she was set up for, and they just had a guy that basically looked like Mark Hamill when he was younger stand in to do that, so you didn't have an actor to go through and associate with that. So yeah, they did a very good job with that. Some of the CGI kind of yeah, if you go through and just cover up his mouth. It was better than
Tarkin, but it was still kind of awkward.
I think Tarkin was better.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Tarkin looked a little, I don't know, like glitchy almost.
If you go through and watch, like, when they speak and their facial expressions, Tarkin's much better than Luke.
Yeah.
But that's movie budget versus TV budget.
And that's true.
Mainly the difference and everything of it. But that's why I didn't really go through. I was like, I wasn't so concerned. It was the face. It got the point across. I wasn't really going through diving too in there and how bad the CGI looked or anything like that. But I was more excited about and watching everything with that happening. of the tie-in with Vader going down to the hall, just like Rogue One. If you had to see the side-by-side of Vader going down in Rogue One, just demolishing everybody, and then you see Luke walking down the hallway, they're pointing out even he turns his back and throws his lightsaber on his back to deflect a blaster bolt, goes through, and is the same way Anakin did.
Vader did it. Yeah.
No, not Vader. Anakin did in Clone Wars. Or not. Attack of the Clones. At the beginning, when he's doing the droids, he goes through and turns his back and throws his lightsaber behind his back to deflect a bolt right into a droid. The same way that Luke did. So that you see a lot of similarities, and it's almost like a progression. When you see Luke at first, it matches up as Anakin in Attack of the Clones. And then when you get towards the
end,
when you get close to the end, the hallway, it's closer to Vader, where you have the Force Crush and the Death Hallway, just walking through, deflecting bolts and just slashing people.
Yeah.
So it is very cool. They I think it was a very good tie-in character progression of Din Djarin going through with this, revealing his face and taking off his helmet at the very end, of basically his character evolution of being part of that cult, and seeing the different side of what a Mandalorian can be.
And I'm going to give Stan credit for this because he mentioned it in Discord, but he made a good point, because Bo-Katan was not going to take that Darksaber. And Mando's sitting here thinking, why not? Like, just take it. I don't want this. This is yours. And, like, Gideon's there laughing. He's like, nope, she can't do it. Ha, ha, ha. And, like, Stan says, well, maybe this was his progression, thinking, my cult bullcrap about taking my helmet off sucks. So your cult thing about not taking the Darksaber sucks. So I'm going to take it was kind of a nod to, like, let's just get past this.
I think there's going to be a lot more of that in season 3 on why she didn't take the Darksaber. I think there's more to it, because if you think about it from Rebels, she didn't win the Darksaber from Sabine.
No,
this is a change.
It to her.
Yeah, this is a change of her personality of not taking the Darksaber, because she already took it once. So now all of a sudden, she feels the need that she needs to win.
Well, here's the only thing I can think of: is it because Mando's a foundling, and Sabine is a native daughter of Mandalore?
I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to lean more to that she already lost the Darksaber once, so she doesn't feel she's worthy of the Darksaber unless she's able to win it back. And this is the second time that someone has won the Darksaber and tried to give it to her, and she's afraid she's going to lose it again.
Or it could be Sabine didn't win the Darksaber in combat. Sabine
she found it.
It's found it in the lightsaber, so maybe she can take it because Sabine didn't win it in combat, whereas Mando did win it in combat. But the flip side is we don't know how Gideon got it. Did he win it in combat? Did he take it? Mm-hmm. So that would be kind of interesting to hear too.
Yeah, that's why I think the next season is kind of going to go through and play into more of what happened and why that is such a big deal to her now, which will be very cool to see.
Yeah. But, we don't need to go, I don't think, through all the different specific series that came out, but which one are you looking most forward to?
Well, I think we can go through and basically put into this that they came out with a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It was more than anything else. A lot of times when Stan and I were talking about Star Wars rumors and everything of, hey, this series is starting, hey, this one's supposedly canceled. Pretty much all the ones that were supposedly canceled were all greenlit. It's just on different timings and everything. They went through and did part of it and set it up for later. I am... a lot of these, actually. I want to see the Obi-Wan series. Seemed really good. Ahsoka seemed really good. Very curious about the Acolyte, because that is going into that new the era that we talked about, the High Republic era.
Yep.
That looks really cool. Bad Batch looks like a cool animated series.
It does, but I'm just kind of over Clone Wars at this point.
Well, just the characters and being an animated series and everything like that, I think that's more of a refreshing pace considering everything else is live action. That's more of why I'm excited about that, because I do like the animated series of Star Wars, and I think it gives the creators more flexibility of character development and everything, and that's what I really enjoy about those types of shows.
I 100% agree with you.
And Cassian looks interesting.
I see. You didn't read the EU, did you? You said last time you didn't.
No. I mean, I've read obviously a lot of the like Wikipedia entries and seen a lot like summaries of it, but not any of the actual books.
I am so excited for Rogue Squadron.
Okay, yeah.
The 10 book series that Michael Stackpole and Aaron Alston did, if they even follow like a fourth of that, I will. It's so freaking good. I mean, Biggs Darklighter's cousin comes in, Gavin, Wedge and Tycho, and Corran Horn turns out to be a Jedi. It is just so good. And the way that Patty Jenkins did that, I was beyond impressed.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really didn't see anything of everything they announced. I'm pretty much excited for all of it. I do like that they're like Hayden Christensen is coming back for the Obi-Wan series. That is big, actually, seeing some of the actors that are actually coming back into the Star Wars universe that I wouldn't have guessed that would actually come back with the amount of flack and everything like that. But
yeah, I was going to say, it's like, I really appreciate that they did that and they gave Ahmed Best that kids show that I think kind of petered out and didn't do well, but they're recognizing, hey, you got kind of shafted. I hope to do something with Rose Tico for that very reason. Like maybe give her a show where, she's kind of like a New Republic operative.
I don't know if you're going to go through and see her have her own show, but I could see Rose reappearing in series and basically kind of like
popped up in the Lego.
Yeah.
Did you see but she did that.
But I see more like Ahsoka in Mandalorian. I could see Rose being like a key figure in like an episode or two of a couple of different series.
Hope, just because of the horrific way that like all the neckbeards treated Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah.
It's just she actually had a point, and I think they just missed the entire point of her arc in Last Jedi. And it's just I at points I hate being a Star Wars fan and being associated with it, because I mean there's so much Star Wars out there. Like, I didn't like the prequels, but I don't get online and make fun of it.
Yeah.
For people that do, because that's their Star Wars. And that's with 10 things coming out at us, everybody's going to have something. And that's really cool.
And they're all in different time periods. You have a new one in the High Republic. You have one right after the Clone Wars with Obi-Wan. You have stuff in the Mando timeline with Ahsoka. Rangers are in that one.
And
Bad Batch is Clone Wars. Cassian's
Visions is like this anime thing, and it's like you said, like it's kind of refreshing just to go back to the animated Bad Batch. It's like everybody, like they're trying to give people Star Wars, and it's not going to hit all the time, but we don't, as fans, have to belittle the actors. So yeah. I think Star Wars is going in a very good direction, and I cannot wait for the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much everything then, too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's wrap this up and get on out of here.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you want to do the housekeeping?
I can do that. Go ahead and leave us a review on iTunes or any podcast server of choice. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys next time. Later.
As
as you are exiting the cantina, we would like to say thanks for stopping by, and we hope to see you out on the hollow table soon.